Guys, sorry, but unfortunately, I am muting you on the Zoom so you can start, so we can start the video. All right. Okay. All right. Very good. Once again, welcome to Boston Healthcare Institute. And my name again is Professor Jean-Edouard Brutus. We are live here on a Zoom meeting with so far 42 of our students, and we are trying to see how many more will come on. That's number 43. And we're going to try to uncover chapter 8. Okay, so we're going to cover chapter 8, and also we will record that on YouTube, so that way you, my students, past and future, including present students, can use that to study. So that means if you want to review, okay, you can open your book, turn on the video, and start watching. Okay, so nursing assistant training book, you know which one it is. We're using the 6th edition of the nursing assistant care book. All right, you all know which book I'm talking about. And we're going to page 217, page 217, and from there we will get started with chapter chapter 8. Chapter 8, whoops, sorry. Chapter 8 talks about, let me just fix my tablet here so my tablet can stay fixed. Very good. Okay. Chapter 8 is about nutrition and hydration. Okay. All right. So as nursing assistants, right, we assist the patient with meals. We serve the meals, and also we create an environment so that the patient can enjoy the food, can enjoy the meal, and get all the nutrients in the meal. Okay, as a nursing assistant, if you are working, if you are doing home care as an HHA, well, part of your responsibility will involve cooking for the residents, shopping, and even cooking for the resident. All right, and your resident will appreciate that as well. All right, page 217. Okay. Proper nutrition is important. Proper nutrition is important. Nutrition is how the body uses food to maintain health. Okay, your body needs a well-balanced diet, right? Your body needs all the nutrients that's necessary to keep all the cells alive and going, all right, to maintain normal body function, to maintain what we talked about earlier that we called homeostasis. Homeostasis is all the body systems working well or working together, okay, to keep the body alive. So therefore, nutrition will play a very important part in that. Okay, now proper nutrition will also help with good health, later in life, right? Is having a little bit of problem. Okay, so the food that we eat has nutrients. Nutrients are the substances that we find in the food. Okay, nutrients are the substances that we find in the food, the substances that gives us energy, that gives us strength. Okay, that helps us to grow and to recover even if we get sick. So nutrients can are the vitamins, the minerals, okay, and the things that your body needs. Okay, so there's a whole list of nutrients on page 217. The first nutrient we can look at is water. All right, so water is part of the meal, is part of the nutrition that you need, right? So water is the most important nutrition that your body needs, right? It's one of the most essential nutrients to life. Okay, all right. So your patient needs to drink water throughout the day. All right. So the nursing assistant needs to know that sometimes the patient will call and simply to ask for a drop of water, simply to ask for a cup of water. And you need to be okay with that because you drink water as well, right? So, so the food has plenty of fluid, plenty of water in it, along with all the other drinks like juice, coffee, milk, etc. Right? Carbohydrates is another nutrient. It gives the body energy and extra protein, right? It provides fiber. Carbohydrates provides the fiber that is necessary for elimination. Okay. Now, there's different types of carbohydrates. We have complex carbs that you can find in bread, in cereal, potato, rice, pasta, and then you have simple carbs that you can find in sugar, sweets, syrups, jelly, etc. Right? Another nutrient is protein. Protein, they are needed. Protein is needed to help your tissue grow, all right, and to help the tissue repair. For tissue repair, protein gives energy, right? So when a child is growing up, the child needs protein, okay? When your elderly patient is feeling weak, the muscles are wasting away. So to help the tissue to regrow, all right, to help the patient to become stronger, they need protein. If your patient has a wound, right, has a bed sore, a lot of times you will see that the doctor will order extra protein because protein is also good for tissue repair. A good source of protein, right? Good sources of protein. Basically, you can find it in poultry, meat, eggs, milk, cheese, nuts, etc. Right? Let's turn the page a little bit. Page 218. 218. If you're looking at figure 8-2, all right, you see some source of protein, you see some cheese, you see some meat, you see beans, right? You see eggs, you see a variety of stuff. Another nutrient is fat, right? Fat helps the body store some energy, right? Fat helps the body store energy. It adds flavor. Fat adds flavor to the meat, to the meal, right? So we have different kinds of fat, different categories of fat, right? You have saturated, transsaturated, fat, monosaturated, saturated, poly, unsaturated. So your body does need some fat. I'm not going to elaborate too much on the fowl, fish, dairy product, etc. You have vitamins that come from the. That's another nutrient that you can find in the meal. Okay. you have different kinds of vitamins. You got vitamin A, vitamin B, D, E, C. I mean, you got A, B, C, D, E, vitamin. so, um, so basically, your body will need to use these vitamins. Okay, all the cells in your body. Okay, all the cells in your body, they get to regenerate thanks to the nutrients, thanks to the vitamins, right? So vitamins are needed for body function. Also, minerals are part of the nutrients that you can find in the meal that you eat. Okay, minerals. What are the minerals? Well, let's talk a little bit about minerals. Minerals maintain, page 218, body function. They help build bones. They help make hormones. They help in blood formation. They provide energy. They control body process formation. So it's important to keep in mind that as a nursing assistant, if your patient doesn't eat well, if the plate is half full and your patient didn't eat enough, your patient is missing out on major ingredients that's necessary to life, right? So you have zinc, iron, calcium, magnesium, right? Salt, okay? All of these ingredients are necessary, all right? Now, when we have a patient that has, say, diarrhea or that's all vomiting, right? Basically, we're thinking about not just the loss of fluid from the diarrhea, but we're thinking about the loss of the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, right? We're thinking about all of that happening, and that's why a person with untreated diarrhea will not live very long. Why? Because it's they're losing too much. And when the doctor calls and orders labs, the lab is primarily going to look at what nutrients are we missing, what nutrients are we losing. Okay? Now, fruits and vegetables, page 219, right? 219. The government create a system, right? The government create a system, and the system, they call it the My Plate. According to the My Plate system, okay, a person is supposed to have fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy on a daily basis, right? So fruit and vegetable, we're on 219, make up half of the person's plate. Vegetable include fresh, frozen, canned, or dried vegetables or vegetable juice, okay? Vegetables are low in fat and low in calories, right? And have no cholesterol, right? Page 219. Fruits include all fresh, frozen, canned, or dried fruit and a 100% fruit juice. Okay, fruits like vegetables are naturally low in fat, low in sodium, right? Low in fat, low in sodium, in calories, and have no cholesterol. Okay, so the patient is in a safe zone when they consume a lot of fruits and vegetables, which should make half of your daily meal, right? So all the vitamins and you get a lot of vitamins and a lot of minerals from fruits and vegetables. It says here on 219 that they are important sources of dietary fiber, and then a quarter of the daily diet, right? Grain, basically, when you think about grain, you're thinking about wheat, rice, oat, cornmeal, right? Barley, etc., right? So, So that should be part of your diet. All right. Next, you have protein, right? Protein. We talked about the importance of protein. A good source of protein is meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, right? Let this person in there. Eggs, beans, peas, soy product, etc. Right? Now, seafood also has plenty of protein, lean meat, poultry, eggs. We mentioned those already. Let us now go to page 220. Okay, page 220. All right. I'm gonna check up on my students here. All right, everybody's hiding. Nobody's showing me their camera. That's okay. All right. Okay. Now, dairy, all milk product and food made from milk that retain their calcium content, such as yogurt and cheese, are part of the dairy category. All right. The dairy group choice should be fat-free, skim, or low-fat milk. Okay. Or yogurt can also be chosen. Okay. So milk provide nutrients that are vital to the health and maintenance of the body. These nutrients include calcium, potassium, vitamin D, protein, etc. Right? Okay. Now, bottom of page 220. Every time you see the word guidelines, right? Remember what I said. Every time you see guideline, that means pump your brake. Stop right there and study. Okay? That means go back and study, because state exam questions will most likely come from your guidelines. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about your guidelines. Guidelines to healthy food choice. Balance your calories. Okay, so calorie balance is a relationship between the calorie obtained from food and fluid consumed and the calorie used during normal body function and physical activity. Okay, so there should be a balance, meaning as you eat, you should think about exercise. You should think about, some type of activity where you're also burning calories. Enjoy your food, but eat less. Okay, eating too fast or eating without paying attention to your food can lead to overeating, also lead to overweight. Okay, now by eating too much, we're talking about, just put that on hold here. By eating too much, we're talking about your regular size, but if you divide it by 4 and you just take a quarter of that now, and then in about an hour or two you take the other quarter, so you just break it into 4 separate meals. Okay, so that would be a good way to kind of keep an eye on how much you're really putting in your body. Avoiding oversized portion. Eat less. Eat these food more often. Eat more often. You should eat vegetables, fruit, whole grain, right? Skim or 1% milk, low fat dairy product, right? Eat less of those food that are high in solid fat. Eat less of the food that have added sugars. Eat less of the salt. Now, less sugar. Sugar is a problem, can be a problem to your body, to every cells in your body. Okay? Diabetes basically means that there's a problem in the regulation of sugar in your body. So if you're adding salt, right? Food that has plenty of fat, like bacon, hot dogs, cheese, dried fried food, ice cream, cookies. So we're talking about all the food that I really like, but you know what? A lot of times what we do is we eat for our mouth, but we don't eat for our health. So at times you got to, flip the switch and say, wait a minute. I got to start thinking about my well-being, my health, okay? About staying healthy. All right? Check the sodium content guideline. Check the sodium content in the food. All right? Now, check the sodium content. Basically, as you purchase the food, as you purchase you go to the market to make the purchase, you got to look at how much sodium is in there, how much sugar is in there, how much fat is in there. Okay? Because we got to think about that, especially if you are doing shopping or cooking for your resident. A lot of you watching this video right now will probably be doing some time doing home care. Home care with an elderly patient requires that we cook for them, or also require that we do a little bit of shopping, because your client may not be able to make it to the store, and that's why you got the job. So we got to think about that as we buy for our client. And the best way really to take good care of your patient is to begin taking good care of yourself. If you're taking good care of yourself when it comes to the food, when it comes to the shopping, you pay attention to what you're buying. If you're taking good care of yourself, when it comes to the resident, it will become natural because you're already doing it. All right? So, page 221, drink water instead of sugary drinks. Wow, such as sweetened beverages, soda, fruit punch, etc. Right? So, chapter 8 has me thinking about being healthy, eating healthy, and try to stay healthy. Because for the most part, we eat the sickness that we will produce later on. We eat it in small doses, right? The more you eat something like that's high sodium concentration, that has a lot of salt, the more you're attracting, or you will reproduce that in cardiovascular problem like high blood pressure, peripheral vascular disease, right? The more you eat things that are food that's that have high fat concentration, it will manifest itself around certain areas of your body, makes you nice and plump, okay, as well as inside as well. That's why people suffer from coronary artery disease. The arteries around the heart are clogged up with fat, right? Okay. Now, page 221. Describe factors that influence food preferences. All right. So you're working with a resident. It's important to get to know the patient you're working with. Okay? Because getting to know that person will help you realize, okay, it will help you determine how to better care for this patient. Culture, ethnicity, income, education, religion, all of that will affect nutrition. Okay? Food preferences may be formed by what a person ate as a child and by what tastes good, and personal beliefs, right? Even religion affects how your patient eats, right? So again, that's something to keep in mind, okay? Because if you're taking care of a patient that is 7-day Adventist, it's not you don't give them what they don't want. Simple as that. And it's as easy as asking the patient, okay, what do you want to eat? Do you like this? Do you like that? Or you can have a conversation with the patient. I usually like to eat pork. Do you like pork? Patient says, no, I'm 7-day Adventist. No, I'm Jewish, right? So, hey, no, I'm Muslim. Hey, so there you go. Now I know. If I'm shopping for this patient, I will know what not to buy for this patient, okay? Based on their religion, based on their practice, right? So if you're taking care of an Indian client, your client is from India, right? They have certain things that they like to cook. So what do? We ask the patient, how do you want me to cook your food? Okay? What kind of stuff do you want me to buy when I go shopping for you? Give me the list. All right? All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about special diet. Okay? Because food play an important part in our health. Okay? Residents who do not have any health problem that require a change in diet, they often eat a regular diet, right? No health problem, regular diet. However, residents who are ill may be placed on therapeutic or modified or what we call special diet. Okay? Now, these diets contain certain restrictions, okay? And these restrictions are beneficial to the client, right? And these diets also, they have some modification added to them and they have a therapeutic use. So when our patient is ill, okay, the medical system that we have in place, we treat them in three ways, right? We treat the patient with medication, we treat the patient with diet, and we treat the patient with exercise. And the most important one is prevention. Okay, so let's talk about diet. Okay, several types of diet are available for different illnesses. Okay, let's turn the page to 222. Okay, now 222, you see a low sodium diet. Okay, now as you serve the tray, the nursing assistant needs to check on the diet card, on the card that's on the tray. It should have the patient name, room number, and the type and the name of the type of diet that's in the plate. You uncover it to make sure that you have the right diet. You check patient ID, right? Patient ID band, ask for name, etc., and make sure you match the right diet to the right person. Because if you don't, then you really are creating problem. Okay, low sodium diet. Okay, a diet that has sodium restriction, not too much sodium. Residents who have high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney disease may be placed on a low sodium diet. Okay, they may be placed on the low sodium diet. Okay, for example, you may see a patient with high blood pressure. The doctor will say, the diet will say NAS, no added salt, right? So if this patient asks you to get them potato chips, there's a high concentration of salt in the potato chips. So keep that in mind. Let's not serve them potato chips. Okay? Fluid restricted diet. The fluid taken into the body through food and fluid must equal the food that leaves the body through perspiration, stool, urine and expiration. Okay? So if you have a patient, so people with severe heart troubles, people with kidney diseases, right? Severe heart disease or kidney disease may have trouble processing fluid. So to prevent further during the day. All right? So basically the nursing assistant, along with the nurse, along with the healthcare team, we need to be aware of how much fluid the patient is drinking. So if the doctor orders a 1 liter or 1,000 ml or 1,500 ml of fluid consumption per day, so right now we enter a mode of strict INO, strict intake and output, where we are strictly monitoring how much fluid is going in and how much fluid is going and how much fluid is going out. Okay, but we're primarily focused on fluid restricted diet, which means let's take a look at the tray. If there's too much fluid, right? Patient has the meal, and then patient went to the vending machine and got himself 2 bottles of Cokes. We got to say, wait a minute now, there's going to be a problem, okay? So there's going to be a little bit of education that we will have to provide to the patient along with the family to help us keep things keep things normal, okay, for the patient. You have low protein diet. People with kidney disease will need to be on a low protein diet. For example, if you have your diabetic patient that had kidney failure that's on dialysis, low fat diet for people at risk of heart disease, okay, or people who already have heart disease. People who have heart disease and who have had a heart attack are often prescribed a diet that is low in saturated fat. Okay. Food that contains healthier fat may include olives, nuts, avocado, and fatty fish like salmon, etc. Right, like salmon, etc. So we are keeping an eye on the fat. So therefore, can we go to the vending machine and buy a whole bunch of chips for the patient and let the patient indulge himself in all the... No, we can't do that. Okay? A nursing assistant is really a guardian over that resident. All right? Modified calorie diet. Right? For patients that want to lose weight, that need to lose weight, or maybe even patient that needs to gain weight. Some patients, the doctor will say, well, you're overweight, we cannot do this or that procedure for you. And certain other patients, the doctor will say, well, we need to increase your weight. You need to eat a little bit more, put on some weight before we perform this or that procedure on your body. All right? Diabetic diet. If you have a patient that is diabetic, you got to keep an eye on what they're eating, right? The diabetic diet, for example, this patient cannot have a brownie or cake, right? Or a big bottle of Coke, right? So we got to keep an eye on the sugar content. Calories and carbohydrates are carefully controlled in the diet of the resident who have diabetes. Protein and fat are also regulated. The type of and amount of food that are consumed by nutritional that are determined by nutritional and energy need. Right? So for these patients, the dietitian will determine the meal plan, okay, throughout the day, all right? Especially for your diabetic patient, because we need to keep the glucose, the sugar level, at a normal level, okay, as the patient goes throughout the day and eat and take their medication and all that stuff, right? You got vegetarian diet, okay? People with diabetes, obesity, right? They may need to be on a vegetarian diet, right? This is where the person consumes mostly fruits and vegetables, right? You have different types of vegetarian diet. We have lactose. I'm going through this, and I know you will have to read your chapter. Do yourself a favor, underline lacto-ovo, the meaning for lacto-ovo, the meaning for lacto-vegetarian, and lacto-vegetarian diet, okay? Because that information is important, okay? That information is important, all right? Let's see here. Okay. So moving on. All right. If you guys will excuse me, I have a minor emergency. Somebody's knocking at my door. Don't go too far. I got to get them in. 1 second. Be right back. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. So, yep. So underline lacto-ovo, vegetarian and ovo-vegetarian diet. Very important. Okay? Trust me. Vegan diet consists of only plants. There's pescatarian diet, liquid diet. Now let's talk a little bit about the liquid diet. A lot of times, if your patient has nausea or has been vomiting, they need to be on a liquid diet. Usually after surgery, well, here's what happens. Your patient is not supposed to eat solid right after surgery. So we start them as an NPO. Do not feed them anything, nothing by mouth. And then slowly advance them as their stomach begins to tolerate or begins to regain what we call peristalsis, movement, regain activity. So these patients will start with a liquid diet, and then we will advance them to a soft and mechanical diet. Okay? The soft and mechanical diet, okay, is a diet for someone who has difficulty chewing and difficulty swallowing. So therefore, these patients, they will have the kind of diet that after the meal is cooked, they blend it, make it into a paste, right? Make it very soft, make it easy to chew and swallow, okay? Because this person may have dental problem, swallowing problem, chewing, okay? So that's the same case for the puree diet. Let's go on to puree diet, page 224. The puree diet is a diet that we blend, we grind it into a thick paste, like baby food. Okay. So the food now, as a nursing assistant, when you're feeding your resident, pay attention to your facial expression, how you're looking at the food. Because if you make a face on the food, that will indicate to the patient that this is not pleasing to the eyes of anyone. So why should they eat it? Okay? So your facial expression sends a message to the resident. Keep an eye on that. All right? Nutritional supplements. Nutritional supplements is basically, it's a kind of supplements. Like we have different shakes, different types of shakes that have extra added protein and extra added vitamins and nutrients. A lot of times our residents, they don't eat much, or they don't want to eat. They're afraid to eat because they don't want to go to the bathroom. Okay? So the logic is not really as it used to be. So basically, what we do, what we do is, if our patient don't eat enough, we will report that to the nurse, and then the nurse will obtain orders from the doctor for us to give this patient, Ensure, or an extra can of Ensure or Boost, right? Or 2 Cal, something that's high in calories. Okay? So the nursing assistant's job is to make sure that you offer the supplement if it is ordered, or if your patient has not eaten much. Okay? So they can regain strength and catch up on the calories that they lost. Okay? We have to assist our patient in maintain fluid balance. So therefore, page 224, okay, water is an essential nutrient to life, for life, right? Proper fluid intake is important. So drinking enough water per day can prevent constipation and urinary incontinence. Without enough fluid, urine become concentrated. So we have to encourage our patient to drink. Okay? We have to encourage our patient to drink. Okay. Now, the abbreviation NPO means nothing by mouth. We do not give our patient anything to eat or drink, even if it is ice chips. You have to watch out for that order. The order will say NPO. NPO, we give him nothing. If your patient is going to surgery, if your patient is having an issue and the doctor says this patient needs to be NPO and the order is initiated, your job is to make sure you do not offer any drink or eat in or food or drink or eat in the presence of that patient. Okay? Dehydration, this is when the body lost plenty of fluid, right? It occurs when the person does not have enough fluid in the body. It is a serious condition. It is a major problem among the elderly. People can become dehydrated if they don't drink enough or if they have diarrhea or vomiting. Preventing dehydration is very important, guys. That's part of our job. Okay? Now, if your patient gets dehydrated, either because they're not drinking enough or they're having diarrhea and it's not addressed, the Department of Health will call that abuse. Okay? Because it is abuse. So how can we prevent dehydration? Page 225. We're going to prevent dehydration. Now again, pay attention to the guideline. Warning signs. Them. Offer fresh water and other liquid that the patient may like. Okay? Ice chips, frozen flavored ice chips, sips of liquid between bites of food, right? Make sure a pitcher and a cup are nearby and are light enough for the resident to carry. Okay? Observe and report warning signs of dehydration. Patient drinking less than six of the 8-ounce glasses of water per day. Patient drinks little or no fluid at meals. Patient needs help drinking from a cup or glass. Patient has trouble swallowing liquid. Resident is easily confused, tired, dried mouth. cracked lips, sunken eyes, dark urine, weight loss, fatigue, dizziness. So all of that are signs of dehydration. So on page 225, okay, it shows you, it gives you a description of how to serve fresh water. After you practice your beginning procedure steps, identify yourself, wash your hands, put on gloves. If the patient wants some water, make sure you get a pitcher, fill it with ice and water, and serve that patient, and leave the rest of the water plus empty cup at the bedside. Okay? All right. Now, page 226, let's talk about fluid overload. Fluid overload occurs when the body cannot handle the fluid consumed. Okay, if the body cannot handle the fluid consumed. Now, for state exam purposes, anytime you see swelling, it means edema. Edema means swelling. It also means inflammation. Okay, so if the ankle, the feet, the fingers, the hands are swollen, then we got a problem we call edema or inflammation. This is basically indicating to us that the heart, there's a problem with the heart, problem with the kidneys, all right, problem with the entire system. If you notice weight gain, decrease urine output, all right, the body is supposed to produce about 50 mLs of urine per hour, which means at the end of a 40 at the end of an 8-hour shift, 8 times 50, that's 400, right? That's 400. So you should empty the catheter or measure at least 400 ml of urine throughout the day, plus the extra drinks that the patient had, right? That caused them to urinate more frequently. Okay, so how do we identify, okay, patients that are losing weight? Okay, how do we prevent weight loss? Because let's be honest, the elderly, their taste bud, when they're sick, when a person is sick, elderly, and is taking certain type of medication, the taste buds is not the same. They don't want to eat at times. All right, they don't want to eat. All right, they are at risk of malnutrition. Guideline to prevent unintended weight loss. We have page 226. Report observation. Food should look good, taste and smell good. Encourage the resident to eat. Talk about food being served in a positive tone or voice. Honor resident food likes and dislike. Help the resident who's having trouble feeding. Season food to residents' preferences. Allow time for the resident to finish eating, right? If the resident has lost their appetite and seems sad, ask them about it. Engage the resident to talk, right? Observe and report weight loss, unintended weight loss. How do we know our resident is losing weight? Or is at risk of losing weight? If the resident needs help eating or drinking, if the resident eats less than 75% and swallowing, right? Resident cough or choke during eating, while eating, patient is sad, crying, has crying spell, resident, confused, wonders, and paces, right? These patients are at risk of weight loss. How can we promote appetite, right? Assist the resident with grooming, page 227. Assist with grooming and hygiene. Give oral care. With oral care, the mouth tastes better. The food tastes better. Offer trips to the bathroom. Help resident wash their hands before eating. Encourage the resident to use dentures, eyeglasses, and hearing aid. Check the environment. The temperature should be comfortable. Sit resident next to their friends. Properly position the resident for eating. Serve food promptly to maintain the correct temperature. Plate tray should look appetizing, etc. Right? Be positive, be cheerful on a request regarding food. All right. So again, as you go through the guidelines and the observing and reporting sections of page 226, 227, keep in mind information from there will will prepare you for your state exam. Now, we have certain residents that need help with eating. They need assistance. Okay? Some of them cannot bring the spoon to their mouths. Some of them they just can't do it. They need someone to feed them. Some of them need a little bit of help, right? So resident will need different level of help with eating. Some resident will not need any help. Others will only need a little bit of help. You need some help setting up. All right. Again, let's go quickly into the guidelines. Assisting a resident with eating. Assisting a resident with eating. Ask if the resident needs to go to the bathroom before eating. Okay? Taking a trip to the bathroom empties out the colon, right? And get them ready to refill, right? Before you begin serving, wash your hand and wash the resident's hand or help them wash their hands. Identify the resident to ensure you're serving the meal to the right person. Sit at the eye level. If the resident wishes, allow time for prayer. Never treat the resident like a child. This is embarrassing and disrespectful. Test the temperature of the food by putting your hand over it, okay, over the dish to sense the heat, okay. Cut the food, pour liquid as needed. Identify the food and fluid that are in front of the resident. Ask the resident which food they want to eat. Do not mix food unless the resident requests it. Do not rush the meal time. Allow time for the resident to chew and swallow. I have watched nursing assistant feed a resident. They look like they're shoveling snow. Okay, non-stop, and then you will watch the patient's mouth is full like this, and they keep pushing it in. No, you're looking for a big problem because we have two passageway down here. One for food, one for air. If the mouth is too full, food will go down both ways. And food down the lungs will cause major problem, and it could even cost your patient his or her life. So you do not rush the meal process. Allow the resident time to chew, to swallow. Be social, be friendly. Make simple conversation. Give the resident your full attention, okay, while she's eating. Do not talk to other staff while feeding the resident. Alternate food and drink. So 1 spoon of food, 1 drink. One spoon of food, 1 drink. By the way, the spoon should not be full. It should be a third or half full. Okay. All right. Also, remember the elderly and the sick. They don't put their salivary gland may not produce enough saliva to help them really masticate the food to make the food soft enough. Okay? So the nursing assistant needs to be aware of all of that, especially that our part of our job is to supervise eating, assist with eating, feed the dependent. All right? Feed those that are completely dependent for care. Okay? On page 229, there's a video. All right? If you're using the book and if you're part of my classroom, you will have access to that video. But you can also go on YouTube. YouTube is a great source of information when it comes to patient care. Okay? So assist the resident with eating. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. is part of your beginning procedure steps. Identify yourself, identify the patient, wash your hand, explain the procedure, provide for privacy. Number 5, look at the diet card. Make sure the diet card is correct based on what on your resident, right? Number 6, raise the head of the bed. Put your patient in a sitting position. Number 7, adjust bed level, okay, bed height. All right, and sit at eye level. Place the tray where it can be seen easily. Let the patient clean their hand, or if they cannot, you do it for them. Put on clothing protector. If the patient refuses that, leave it alone. Sit facing the resident at eye level. I mean, all of this is basically part of the video, right? For you to go back and watch. You cannot continue this chapter and not go back and watch the feeding resident video. Especially, you need to know that it's one of the potential skills of the state exam. Page 230, as you feed the resident, you have to have a pleasant look on your face, right? You have to make small talk with the resident. Make the mealtime entertaining, okay? All right. Make mealtime entertaining for the resident, all right? Now, let's talk about so the food tray and the plate after the meal, okay? These things need to be removed from the room, number 1, and you have to report and document the percentage of food and the liquid intake amount that the patient took. So if your patient took 2 cups or 3 cups, the water, the juice, and the milk, that's 3 cups. If each cup is 8 ounces or each cup is 4 ounces, you got 3 times 4, that's 12 ounces of fluid. 12 ounce of fluid times 30, all right, that gives you the amount of ml that you need to report, okay? Because we have to help the patient achieve a balanced diet by eating the appropriate amount, okay? If not, then substitute the rest with a supplement. Also, keep an eye on the fluid intake that they are eating, that they are taking, okay? Now, we need to keep in mind that some of our residents may have swallowing difficulties, swallowing problems. Residents who may have residents may have conditions that makes eating and swallowing difficult. Dysphagia means difficulties swallowing. A stroke patient, a CVA patient, stroke or CVA can cause weakness and paralysis on one side of the body, causing problem with the swallowing. Nerves and muscles, we're on page 231. Nerves and muscles, that muscle damages from head and neck, cancer, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's may also be present. All right. If a resident has trouble swallowing, soft food, thick and liquid will be served. Okay, so how can we identify swallowing difficulties? How can we identify dysphagia? Page 231, coughing during and after meal, choking during meal, dribbling saliva, food or fluid, having food residue inside, slowly, avoid eating, spitting out pieces of food, swallowing several times per mouthful. So all of that, including the rest of them, okay, are signs of swallowing difficulty, of dysphagia, that we need to report. Okay, so in the healthcare facility, you will be trained on, using different types of liquid or paste that we put in the drinks to make it thick enough for the resident to swallow. Okay, and the thickness, the level of thickness, is a medical order, is a doctor order. Okay, the dietitian is involved, the doctor is involved, right? So we have page 231, nectar thick, honey thick, pudding thick, liquid. All right. So we may mix the fluid based on how the resident, what the order is on how the resident can swallow. Okay. Swallowing problems put residents at high risk, page 232, at high risk of for choking on food or drinks. Okay, aspiration basically is inhaling food, fluid, or foreign material into the lungs. Aspiration can cause pneumonia or death. So this is what I was talking about. If your patient has, if your patient has a mouthful and the mouth is like this, and you keep putting food in there and forcing them to swallow, forcing the resident to hurry, rushing the resident, that may cause the food to go in the wrong pipe. And if it goes in the wrong pipe, well, aspiration can cause pneumonia or death. Okay? Now, guidelines. Again, remember, guidelines, very important. Preventing aspiration. Okay, I have a good feeling that this guideline is part of a state exam issue. Okay, preventing aspiration. Position resident in an upright position. All right, I think this is so important that the state, if I was writing the state exam, I would put that information in there. Okay, positioning the resident in an upright position for eating and drinking. Okay, do not feed the resident in a reclined position. Offer small pieces of food and small spoonful of puree food. Feed residents slowly. Do not rush them. Place food in the unaffected side or stronger side of the mouth. If your resident had a stroke, you need to know which side is strong and which side is weak. And the side that is strong is where you position the spoon. The side that is strong is where you position the straw. Okay? All right. Now, when the digestive system does not function properly, parenteral nutrition, sometimes referred to as a total parenteral nutrition, may be needed. All right? A solution that the parenteral nutrition is a solution that is prepared in a lab, okay, by the pharmacist, and they determine what kind of nutrient this patient needs, and they transform everything into a liquid so that it may be used, it may go directly into the circulatory system. Okay. When a person is unable to swallow, they may be fed through a tube. There's nasogastric tube, page 232. Nasogastric tube is a tube inserted in the nose and goes into the stomach. And then we got the percutaneous tube, a tube that is placed into the stomach through the abdominal wall. Percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy tube. That's what we would call the PEG tube. Okay, the surgically created opening into the stomach that allows the insertion of a tube is called a gastrostomy. Okay. Now, to provide the fluid, to provide the nutrient, the food. Also, to perform surgery so that way they can put a tube, they poke a hole in the abdomen, certain region of the abdomen, put a tube there, and the tube and the food is received through there. Okay. Now, nursing assistance. So on page 232, you can see the picture of the nasogastric tube, the gastrostomy, and the PEG tube. The gastrostomy is the opening, right? Now, nursing assistant never insert or remove tubes to the feeding patient or irrigate the tube. They may assemble equipment and supplies and hand them over to the nurse. Okay. Guidelines when it comes to tube feeding: wash your hands before assisting. So you're not doing the tube feeding, you are assisting. Make sure the tube is not coiled kink or resting underneath the resident. Be aware if resident has an order for NPO. What is NPO? nothing by mouth. The tube is only inserted and removed by the doctor or by the nurse. A doctor will prescribe the type of an amount of the type and amount of fluid. The resident with a feeding tube should always have the head of the bed elevated to 30 degrees. So our patient is in a semi-Fowler position. Okay? All right. Again, we have observe and reporting tube feeding. Okay? On page 233, we have if you observe redness, drainage, skin sores, cyanotic skin, resident complaint of pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, we need to report that. The guidelines for dining, okay, page 233, okay, use assistive devices such as utensils, okay, build for that, okay. Resident may benefit from physical and verbal cues. Verbal cues must be short and clear, like pick up your spoon, pick up the carrot, put the carrot in the spoon, put it in your mouth, etc. Right? As you can see, I'm rushing this a little bit. All right. So I apologize for that, but we're almost at the end of this chapter here. Page 234, okay? If your resident is visually impaired, if your resident is blind or has trouble seeing, right? Use the face of an imaginary clock to explain the position of food to residents who are visually impaired. You could say to the patient, the fork is at 9 o'clock, the milk is at 1 o'clock, the spoon is at 3 o'clock, right? On the plate, the mashed potato is at 7 o'clock, the carrot is at 1 o'clock, right? So that's an example of how you would represent the food. For residents who have had a stroke or have a paralyzed or weaker side, place the food on the stronger side of the mouth. We said that already. Place the food in the resident's field of vision. For residents who have Parkinson's disease, they have a lot of tremors, a lot of shaking. So bring the plate closer to their mouth. Okay, so there's a shorter trip between the plate and the mouth. Okay. So the rest is just real quick reading. Resident has poor sitting balance. Sit with him in a regular dining chair with armrest rather than wheelchair. If resident has poor neck control, use a neck brace. If resident bites down on the utensil, ask him to open his mouth. Do not pull the utensil out of the patient's mouth. If the resident pockets the food in his cheeks, ask him to chew and swallow. Now, I think this is very important to review, guys, especially now that you're getting ready to go on to clinical. All right? Okay, so we will not have enough time to cover chapter 9 Zoom meeting. I apologize, but I must make a quick exit, guys. And I will see you in the classroom. N'a bien révision samedi en Creole. We will have the Creole review on Saturday. I want to thank all 59 students that was watching this, that participated in this Zoom, and our friend on Facebook, those that ask good or silly questions, but that's okay. May God bless you. Gots to go, because I gotta find out what that fire alarm in the neighborhood is all about, because you know how nosy we are. Not we, me. All right, thank you so much, guys. I gotta make a quick exit, so may God bless you all. Have a great night. Okay? Boom.